Hi, so I'm Michelle Marie Angel, and I am an author of three books: Forever Free, It Is a New World After All, and Live Love. And I have been a teacher in many realms, including public school, spiritual teacher, and also in the corporate world. I've been teaching many different things in many different realms, and literally and figuratively, I think. I'm retired right now, and I'm looking to change my focus a little bit more toward my life purpose and my mission. Although I'm still teaching young children how to read and do math, I'm looking more to guide people on their spiritual path. My guidance has been help people find their gifts, help people along their spiritual journey, use your gifts of intuition, and use what you have learned, the knowledge and the processes and the tools through your own journey, which is a lot of what my books are about. I'm a deep meditator, daily meditator. And so by tuning in, asking questions, studying spiritual books like scriptures and so forth, I've developed myself to the point of being able to be of service. So I'm here to be of service. And I think that's it in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Thank you for your email, because I know you wanted to talk about star seeds and breaking cycles and spiritual ropes and courses. Let's start off on star seeds, because that's something I'm really interested in. And I know in the realm of spiritual exploration and metaphysical beliefs, these concepts have gained a lot of attention. And the term starseeds is often used to describe individuals who feel a profound connection to galactic or extraterrestrial beings or otherworldly realms. From what I can glean, is that these individuals believe they have a special purpose on Earth. And I think we all do, but one that is deeply rooted in their cosmic origins, because the reports that come to me are usually the feelings of not being in this world or feeling a strong sense of alienation from society around them. Can you give us an inside view or explain the concept of star seeds in more detail? What characteristics or experiences might indicate that someone is a star seed?
Okay, thank you for that question. Originally, I had entitled this Paradigm Pioneers. And before I knew the term starseed or really understood the scope and ramifications and the attributes of being a starseed, I identified the type of person that was like here on a mission to help. And they were like leading the way for humanity to go into these realms of higher consciousness and interdimensional consciousness where there's a deeper perception and a broader perspective. So when I started meditating, I had heard of the term starseed before, but I didn't really know about it or relate to it. But I got the word paradigm pioneer. And I think paradigm pioneer is basically the same thing, or an umbrella term for all different kinds of star seeds and light warriors and people here on a mission, people who have a covenant or contract, so to speak, to come and help out humanity. There are waves of volunteers that Dolores Cannon spoke of.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too. Star seeds and light warriors. I even did a class on that once, because people who are awake to the truth, they want to find people of resonant souls. They want to find other people that were heretofore thought of as maybe a little bit crazy or not normal, so to speak. So my personal experience actually was when I was 8 years old. And I didn't feel like I was from here. And I prayed to God. I said, get me off this planet. They're barbarians. I want to go home. And I think that was in like 1963. So I'm giving away my age, but it was the year that Kennedy was assassinated. So I think that had a really profound impact on my soul. And intuitively, I knew there was just something really wrong going on here in general on this planet. So I think a lot of people came in as not knowing that they were star seeds or paradigm pioneers or light warriors, but they came in with these extreme challenges and sensitivity intuitive abilities, higher sensory perception, and the idea of feeling different, and growing the sense of having a mission. And my inner knowing said, we are here to break cycles, including breaking cycles of abuse. We have had physical abuse, sexual abuse, governmental power abuse, abuse in the justice system, abuse of power in general, where people try to have power over other people and usurp their energy and usurp their conscience so that they can override their will that's attuned to God and use them and their energy for their own purposes. People are waking up, and I described it once popcorn. Like you get some activating experience and it wakes you up. It's like a catalyst or activator or something powerful that you have to overcome, like sexual abuse or physical abuse or emotional abuse. And you have the grist, you have the power inside, and that awakens that power and lights that fire of passion. And you overcome what you have to overcome. And then you have the tools and abilities to help others and serve your mission. It's a beautiful thing.
I just saw you come alive
Yes,
as life right there.
that's right. That's right. My
And
passion is really on fire.
I love it. I love it. What would you say to some skeptics who just dismiss the idea of star seeds? And I like paradigm pioneers, but who dismiss this whole idea as pseudoscience or fantasy. How would you respond to such criticisms? And what evidence or experiences can you offer to support this concept?
First of all, I would say get past the vocabulary. We don't need semantics to get in the way of understanding each other through the heart. If we go into our heart intelligence and we want to understand how people feel and we want them to understand how we feel, we can speak from the heart and listen with the heart. And it really overcomes and overrides any conceptual notions from the limitations of vocabulary and semantics. And further, I would like to say that inside, we all know that we are divine sparks of God. And within that divine spark, that soul seed, we each have our own gifts. It doesn't matter if you're called a star seed, it doesn't matter of anything, race, religion, country, culture, nothing matters whatsoever. Everybody has a divine spark. Everybody has potential and gifts to share. Everybody's playing a part in this concert, this symphony of humanity, which are awakening souls. Awakening souls is another word that can be very general and universal for everybody. The message of love is universal. Go into the heart, use universal language, and get past the semantics and just love everybody, knowing that they're playing a part. No matter what it looks like on the outside, everybody's playing a part. And I want to say one more thing about playing a part. In our own individual lives, we have people that play parts for our development. Let's say before I come in as a soul, I want to learn forgiveness. I need to be in experience. Someone's got to play the part where they do something that I need to forgive. Basically, I hired them to be in the play of my life. And I directed this person from the beginning and said, I want to learn forgiveness. Will you please betray me? For example. So we have a betrayer or an abuser and so forth. In the end, we say, thank you. I learned how to forgive. I learned how to overcome. I learned how to get past myself. I learned so much from that experience. And personally, I have felt betrayed on a very deep personal level. And I want to speak in general terms because I don't want to diss anybody who I love and have forgiven and who I absolutely appreciate for helping me to learn that lesson. I realized this a long time ago when I was going through my healing. I wrote a poem about forgiveness, and it was really about this forgiveness of betrayal. And as I processed this within myself, I really realized that what I just said, that everybody's here playing a part to help us learn and reach our soul goals. So I actually wrote a book called Nothing But Angels. And the gist of that book is that no matter who comes into our life, whether friend or foe, they're an angel in our life serving us at the highest level. And if we can recognize that, we can really get to the point where we appreciate everyone and every experience. And so we grow beyond the experience and we get those soul virtues and qualities of not just forgiveness, but overcoming, and that inner developed refinement of the soul. And that refinement of the soul, that evolution, that's what we get to take with us when we finish this particular incarnation.
That's what gets harvested.
Exactly. Exactly. Good
That's a
word. That's a good word, because this is harvest time for souls.
exactly. And yeah, that's beautiful. That whole perception of being able to first recognize and then reflect on it and then release it and rebuild your perception of that situation, and then being able to reset and rewire so that you come to a different place in yourself. I'm curious to know, how do you help individuals who believe that they are paradigm pioneers or star seeds understand their unique purpose or mission here on Earth?
That's interesting. That's a great question, because I have learned even more details recently that one of my gifts is to help people realize their gifts. So I've been doing readings for years on the side, not as a career or profession or anything, because teaching is my main career. But on the side, I've done free readings and I've recognized this gift, and I can see souls. And I've always been able to see souls and recognize people in their essence, in their gifts. Because of my meditation and because of my interdimensional communication, I downloaded a form, a 2-page form called God's Gifts from my guides. And when I first downloaded it, it's in 6 parts. I was like, wow, I trust my guides. If they say I can do something, or if they tell me to do something, I do it because I really trust them. So I have this 2-page form. It's called God's Gifts. And it starts out with your divine spark, basically when you were born and so forth. And so I just tune into my guides and I do the reading. And I actually do it while somebody is next to me or on Zoom, but they're just remaining quiet. And I'm quietly listening as I ask and write down all the answers. And sometimes it's spontaneous, because before I had downloaded that form to assist me in my readings to identify each soul's gifts, it would just come spontaneously. Like when I was teaching careers in high school, some people would start searching themselves and what they wanted to do. And one girl, my intuition kicked in and I said, "Don't you like working with children?" And she surprisingly said, "Yes, how do you know?" And I just knew it was an intuition is part of it. So that intuitive ability to tune into people's souls is one way, one tool that I have. And yet another tool, I created a class actually called Life Purpose and Next Step Clarity. There are activities that are very specific and they go in a certain order, and they help somebody to identify their life's mission by looking at their core values, their interests, their skills, their talents, their abilities, and then finding out what is their greatest passion. What lights their fire? When you ask me certain questions, what lights my fire of passion? And you can feel that light. Same thing. So I've done these workshop classes before. And when people get their perfect mission, they light up. They feel good. It's like when you try on a pair of clothes and you think, wow, this fits good. This is looking good. I'm going to buy this. This is right for me. And so, same thing with a person's life mission. They end up with a statement. Another part is the vision is the expanded, how do I have a perfect day? What do I see myself doing? What are the details of my life? It's holistic. It's not just career, but it's relationships and it's health and it's spiritual growth. It hits all the main parts of a person's being. So that's how I help, and intuition, and then also through an educational program that I've created.
Are you still teaching those workshops online, or are you doing them face to face?
Yes and no, and yes again. I have, and I actually have a meeting this week, and I have set those up for face to face in my local area here in Florida. And I have done that here. I actually used to do it in Oregon where I lived. Since I've been replanted in Florida, I did all this in Oregon. Now I'm replanting and regrowing my sprouts. I'm sprouting in Florida. So I have done a little bit in Florida, and I'm actually looking to do more. And I'm also attempting to set up classes on Zoom. So it helps if I find people interested, because when people come to me for help, that gives me motivation and inspiration to set a date, make a time, and a gathering. It's in the works, and it's actually something that is a change that's happening in my life. I've been talking to my guides about it, and I'm actually being redirected at this time. Even this week, I have changes taking place.
I want to move on to breaking cycles because you mentioned breaking cycles, and
Yes.
it's a fundamental theme in many spiritual traditions and is often associated with the idea of personal transformation and transcendence and breaking
Mhm.
free from repetitive patterns or negative behaviors, whether it's cycles of addiction or toxic relationships or self sabotage. And breaking free from these patterns is a vital step towards personal growth and enlightenment. What are some common signs that someone is trapped in a destructive cycle, and how can they recognize the need for change?
If you recognize a need for change, if you're being abused, for sure. And if something doesn't feel right and it inspires your passion, it may come up as passion, might come up as anger, self-love, where I just can't take it anymore. Depression, even, is one of the things that you go through when you're about to break cycles. And I do want to just have a little insert here. We're not just breaking personal cycles, we're breaking cycles for humanity. We're breaking cycles for the whole human family, the whole race consciousness. We're creating a new version of humanity with higher consciousness. We're doing this also by going back into our ancestry, even. We're breaking cycles from our ancestry that we may have brought forward. We're breaking cycles from all of humanity and the whole human evolution. So it's really big. We have personal cycles that we're breaking and personal things that we're overcoming, like betrayal would be one of them. Someone might have an abusive spouse, and then they trade them in for another abusive partner and so forth until they break through that cycle and develop self-love. And that's part of it too, because we are remiss as souls if we are here only for the benefit of others. We must love ourselves. That's where our power comes from. We have to have that equation. Everything is based on equations. It's physics, and it's the science and physics of consciousness where everything is balanced out. Love others as you love yourself basically says that love yourself, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you can help others. We need to receive in order to give. We need to look out for ourselves. So self-love is a really big part of moving through, overcoming, and breaking cycles, self-forgiveness and self-love. It really comes back to the self, and it's the greater self that we're serving.
Maybe you've answered this in part, but what role does spirituality play in this process?
It plays the biggest part of all. In fact, it's spiritual growth that we really need. So, spirituality is going into the deepest parts of ourselves through self reflection, processing our feelings, overseeing our thoughts, almost like transcending, of course, our self, our lower self, going into our higher self. And the name of your podcast is perfect, Transcendent Minds, because it's that transcendence of self and transcendence of thought, transcendence of feelings, which really raises our vibration to the higher vibrational frequencies of pure love. If we can develop pure unconditional love for ourselves, then we can also extend that to others. And many people know and realize I can forgive and love others, but when it comes to myself, that seems more difficult, doesn't it? Somehow it does. We have very high ideals and very high expectations of ourselves normally. When we have a strong conscience, we need to just let that play out, listen to our feelings, even about ourselves, and surrender to our feelings, the higher self that does come forward as a light. That feeling comes forward, the light emerges. It's the Christ light that emerges out of the concept and identity of who do I think I am and who am I really? So you transcend the lower or limited concepts of self, and the self identity increases and expands to the higher self, and the powers come forth. And it's a spiritual process. And so you go deeper, your perspective broadens through self reflection and meditation and prayer and going within. So that spiritual growth comes from going within, which is really in surrender. It's okay. I'm going to be real. I'm going to let my feelings flow. I'm going to look at my thoughts. I'm going to consider myself, and that every thought and feeling is worthy of my attention. I love myself by giving myself attention within, in the realm of thoughts and feelings and so forth. And then organically, the higher self, the true self, comes in and floods the whole being, the whole energy field with this divine love. And that's the kingdom of the soul that we discover. It's that field that you would sell everything for, because it's such a treasure to realize the kingdom of the soul and how that's the power to overcome and transcend everything, including all the self limitations, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. All those can be overcome, and self-love can grow. And then the gifts come forth, and you want to be in service and say, I love myself. I have the capacity to love you and to help you. I've discovered my gifts. Let me serve you and give to you. And I'm a giver now. The lower self is more of a taker. The higher self is more of a giver. We want to give and be of service.
That's really beautiful. That felt like a divine download right there.
It felt like it to me too. It felt like a realization being articulated more than I consciously know. It's Holy Spirit speaking almost, because it is the greater self. It's not the small me, it's the greater sense, that the higher vibrational frequency that we can all tune into. And that comes through in my writing too. I realize if you've developed this higher state of consciousness, you can convey that higher vibrational frequency through writing, but the vibrational frequency comes into your heart and soul when you read it and reflect on it. So I had perceived that when people read this or hear this information, it's going to light up the spark within and open up those channels and raise that vibrational frequency so that you can tune in and reach and maintain a higher vibrational frequency. That is, as I surrender, which is a huge part of my practice, surrender. So it's not me. My only claim to fame is that I get out of the way. But I do understand, and I'll go back and read certain things to get to that higher vibrational frequency if my frequency has dropped, or like I'll do that. And there's a lot of different things I read when I'm meditating to reflect on to get me to that higher vibrational frequency. But we all have that divine spark, and we all can do it with nothing at all but self-reflection. And that's great.
Surrender's a huge thing because when you're in denial, you lack permeation and you lack knowledge. But when you do surrender, you're able to differentiate and disassociate from that identity of lack, of I'm not enough, and all the rest of it, that lower self you were talking about, whereby you can move more to inspiration and creativity and have more of a complete permeation, which then allows those things to come through you and touch, move, and inspire you to be able to deliver these messages. I want to circle back because a question came up in my mind about the paradigm pioneers of starseeds. And it seems clear to me from what you're saying is that they're here to heal and uplift humanity as we approach what I would call this golden age of transcendence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain more about the nature of this healing and uplifting mission? And are there any specific roles or actions that paradigm pioneers undertake to achieve this mission?
Yes, yes. I'll have to say, paradigm pioneers, starseeds, light warriors, these missions of serving all of humanity are not for the faint of heart. We have very highly developed souls that have come in to go through extremely difficult things. And as they do that, I hope I'm answering your question because something came to my mind and I'm just going to say it. I recently saw a near-death experience person talking about how she had a near-death experience, but that she had gone through physical and sexual abuse, and it was related to something that was replete within her particular religion. So she went through this, which was very difficult. These things cause people depression, and they're hard challenges. They're things you don't want to live through kind of challenges, but you must. Something hits you and just says, you must live through this and you must overcome. So we get this help from our guides, and sometimes we die. We go get experience on the other side and say, you're not done. You've got this mission. And then another thing that happens after those experiences, whether it's a near-death experience, whether it's meditation, the spiritual growth happens, and then you get activated, and then you have these perceptions and abilities of perception. And this is the awakening of the DNA. This is the expansion of the sense of self and into the inner dimensions. Then you have this galactic communication, and you realize some of your intuition is galactic communication, angelic communication. These higher dimensional beings of light were all working in unity and harmony in this symphony of love, establishing God's divine plan of heaven on earth and across the universe, heavenly everything, love saturating everything, everyone, everywhere, and bringing us together in all different realms. So we have different realms, and starseeds realize I am part galactic. That's part of my interdimensional nature. I'll tell you, it came to me before. You said Syrian. The first time when I started wondering what was I or where did I come from, Syrian was the first thing that came to me. Palladian was the next thing that came to me. In a past life reading, Lemurian was another thing that came to me. I realized that in our language, we have past, present, future, but we have the eternal moment of now with parallel realities. There's different ways to understand this. Suffice to say, we exist on many levels, and everybody, even though we wake up at different times, it doesn't matter who wakes up first, second, third, fourth. That doesn't matter because everything's in the eternal moment of now. We are to help each other wake up and to not judge anybody else's path or progress, but just to be here to serve if somebody comes to us and they are receptive to receiving our gifts, our information, whatever we have to offer and serve with. We are all waking up to this person I had mentioned that had the near-death experience, started getting these galactic interchanges of information. So it's the real new normal is going to be interdimensional, where the veil has lifted and shifted and dissolved. And we all have all these different parts of ourselves. And so these higher dimensional frequencies tune us in to all these different realms. And we realize not only are we not individual and we're all one, but we're all working together and we have so much help. All we have to do is ask, realize it, ask, and these wonderful synchronicities and wonderful doors open of opportunity, blessings shower through. And that's the beauty of heaven on earth. There is no lack when we realize it. Everything comes from consciousness. I actually used that realization at one time for manifestation. What happened was I realized that it's my vision that creates my reality, not my money. So I imagined having a hot tub. And so I was in the experience and I was smelling the frothy air and feeling the warmth. And I maintained that focus for a little while. And I was just really in the experience. I had honed my manifestation abilities for a while to know that holding the focus was important. Engaging all the different senses is important, really feeling it. And it's almost like reverse engineering. Instead of having an experience and have a memory, you can create a memory and then create the experience. So I did this and then I let it go. The very next day, a friend of mine called and said, Michelle, how would you like a hot tub? I said, I would like a hot tub. And so he said, I have the ability to get a free hot tub in a business trade organization I'm in. And he had a retreat or hotel or whatever you want to call it, a place where there's cabins on the West Coast. And so he said, I don't want the hot tub, but what I would like is for you to come and do a workshop for my employees. And if you do a workshop for my employees, the hot tub will be yours and I will do a three-way trade. He can stay at my inn for a long weekend. You can get the hot tub and I can get the workshop for my employees. I said, okay. So that actually took place and I got the hot tub and there was no money exchange.
So much is available to us now, what you're describing. There's a lot you said there, and we could do a whole series on some of the things you talked about. But what's important to state is that you went with the language of the heart and the senses and the imagination. It's not an academic pursuit or an academic perusal. It's more you have that now. It doesn't matter how it happens. We give that to the chief how officer and we don't get involved in it.
Exactly. And that's really important what you just said, because again, surrender is part of it. You really need to let go and don't even think about the how. It's like you put your order in, you sent the order off, you just wait for it to come.
You go into a restaurant, you make a choice on the menu, hopefully a banquet, not a normal meal, but you don't go into the kitchen and say to the chef, hey, where's my food? What ingredients are you using? You let it go. You've made your choice, let it go. I always
That's
get
a great analogy.
Yeah, I always get the image of a hot air balloon and for the balloon to have buoyancy, which is what people lack, is they get rid of the excess weight so that it can actually ascend. Once you let it go, you go about your everyday activities and trust there will be a response. It may not be immediate, but you let it go because most people want to interfere with that process without understanding or cultivating the patience because sometimes it doesn't come immediately.
That's right. That we have to trust the divine timing. And I want to say something about the hot air balloon imagery. I actually have a process, a tool called the law of diminishing concerns. The law of diminishing concerns, the vision is I write down anything that's concerned in my imagination on a piece of paper, and I put it in each one in a hot air balloon, and I let those hot air balloons go in my mind.
I've been looking about the transition between astrological eras, and that seems to form a central aspect of the Paradigm Pioneers mission. There seems to be different eras that are happening. I've been reading a book called The Yugas and the different cycles of time. What I was trying to do was correlate that with the astrological influences. And maybe this isn't a question, but maybe you can help me make sense of it. If there are astrological eras, if that's a central aspect of the Paradigm Pioneers mission, how does this transition into the age of knowledge, or what we're talking about today, the Aquarian age? How does it influence the work of Paradigm Pioneers? And what significance do you think this age holds for humanity?
Okay, this is the age of enlightenment.
Right.
And I have looked at those cycles as well. When we enter a new cycle, humanity has the consciousness abilities increase. I wrote about this somewhere. I don't have it in front of me because I didn't know we were going to have this question. We went into a new cycle around the 1600s. About that time, certain things were invented and we entered a new age. And I can't remember what those things were. It could have been like the printing press. It could have been, I don't remember. But there were a number of things invented at that time that ushered in a new age. We are entering the age of enlightenment. I believe it's called the Kali Yuga, if memory serves.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in the age of enlightenment. So paradigm pioneers, starseeds, whatever you want to call the souls that came here to serve on a mission to raise consciousness levels, to raise vibrational frequencies, to bring in enlightenment through the soul from spirit out into our everyday intelligence. So we're increasing our intelligence from a mental ego mind to a spiritual heart intelligence connected to the Holy Spirit of truth. This is the enlightenment process. We're doing it individually and can't help but doing collectively because we are united as one in consciousness. That's just a fact. But it's enlightenment. I love that question. I think it really makes total sense.
Oh, good. Good. Because in my mind, I was trying to string it together. And thank you for clarifying that and putting it into a form that made sense to me as well. Something I notice about you is that I would describe you as a soul healer because you seem to have a very strong heart and crown chakra. Am I right?
Soul healer. Does that resonate? Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you the term that comes to my mind. So consciousness calibration, it's like being a tuning fork. I don't know anything about music. I wish I had that ability, but I know that they have these little whistle things and you can set the tone or whatever, the musical scale. And then everybody else will say, okay, that's the pitch or whatever it is. And I feel like a tuning fork where I can raise vibrations. We all have to master ourselves first. I've raised my own vibration and I can be a tuning fork because of my development, because of my intention, because of my mission. And so I can act like a tuning fork and calibrate consciousness to the highest vibrational frequency. And that has come to me in the words of being a tuning fork for God. So the higher consciousness or vibrational frequency. And I do that by raising my vibration and seeking to maintain the highest vibration. I'm always a work in progress, like we all are, but I don't stop working. I do have perseverance and dedication and devotion that helps me be stronger in that. I'm very passionate.
I can see that. That's a great quality to have. We are all tuning forks. It just depends on what we want to act in resonance and in
Right.
sympathy with that vibration and flow, that we are a semiconductor on behalf of the universe.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. We are energy. We are
Yeah.
electromagnetic and photonic, as far as I'm concerned, beings. We have the ability to radiate. We're radiance. We are radiance. What we radiate is what we project.
Mm,
And the stronger the signal, the more we become tuning forks. If we have a weak signal, then we're going to be entrained by other frequencies.
right.
We have to strengthen our signal. It's beneficial to our development and survival to strengthen our signal. That's what spiritual growth is all about. We can pay attention to the light, to truth, contemplate within any tool you want to use, even going in nature, and become the light by resonating with our natural, organic, inherent frequency of our soul. We've got that divine spark, and we can develop and we can amplify that energy, increase our luminosity, and we can emanate and radiate and become really strong pillars of light. That's how we help. Like being the light is like the best service of all.
There's also what I would call a hidden light, because there's your light and there's a hidden light that seems to, in all the conversations I'm having on this podcast with some people, not everybody, especially with yourself, is that it seems to me that you've developed a weave relationship that has a complete permeation and penetration coding.
It feels to me I have reached certain levels of awareness and knowing and confidence to reach that level of eternal, absolute, infinite intelligence. And I was actually reading a poem that I wrote before. It's called The Well and the Lighthouse. I wrote this after a meditation one time, and I felt like I was diving in to receive the light and bringing it up and out like a fountain. And in that process of keep going in to get the light and keep coming out and expressing it, somehow it built a light body or pillar of light. And I really started sensing that feeling of being a stronger light within myself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I see you are a visionary and a leader in creativity and innovation. The question that comes up in me is, how can we bring innovative solutions to old problems?
Simply by contemplating, going within
Mm,
and contemplating. Everybody has genius within. All through my teaching years, I told my students, you're a genius. You're a genius. You discover that genius inside and follow your heart. Everybody's a genius. Everybody can go down to the level because, in the end, it's the one self that we all access, that infinite
yeah.
intelligence. We all have access to the infinite intelligence. And so any solution that you want to get, any innovative solution, you go in, you contemplate it, you ask, you look all around, and then again, you can let go and it will come. I had a friend who had a old 51 Ford truck
Mm,
and put a new electrical wiring through it, and it didn't work. And he kept fiddling with it and trying one thing after another and was frustrated, but went to bed one night thinking about fixing the truck. And that person woke up at 4 in the morning and the answer had come right to him, went out. He knew exactly what to do and it worked. Everybody has that creative genius
mm.
within, and you just tap it. And actually, just before you go to sleep is a really good time to
Great time.
drop that question into your subconscious mind
Mm.
and allow your genius to come out and present it to you.
And you don't have to get involved with the how, you just let it go
Exactly.
and trust it.
Exactly. A lot of letting go and trust. Letting
Mm.
go, surrender, and trust is so powerful. So powerful.
I was just thinking about people listening to this who are paradigm pioneers and they feel that sense of a deeper purpose but struggle to locate it. Is there any guidance or practices that you could offer to individuals or the collective who are on a quest to discover their specific mission and role in the world?
Yes. Number one, be where you're at and be kind and loving to yourself and all those around you. That's the most simple thing to do.
Mm.
The second thing is there is a process where you can look at your life and ask specific questions and self reflect on your life and put all the puzzle pieces together. So have a journal, reflect on your life, see what has brought you joy, do a life review and see what has brought you joy. See what you've overcome, and it will start coming together. If you reflect on yourself and reflect on your life, it'll start coming more into a detailed view. And then last of all, on one of my websites, it's michellemarieangel.com, there is a tab that says life purpose. And basically, it's a little succinct guidance on how to find your life purpose. You could actually just read that, follow that guidance, and come up with it on your own.
Thank you for that, Michelle. I've heard a lot of people on podcasts call this Earth School. To my mind, it is a school of not only learning, but alignment. And in order to really learn, you have to align to that learning. And for that learning and alignment to become part of your basic constitution. If there are different paradigm pioneers incarnating here from various corners of the universe, how does this Earth School contribute to the personal growth and understanding of individuals who incarnate here? What knowledge and experiences do they gain, not only here, but there as well in this unique environment?
We're on a consciousness journey. We're on a journey of the heart. Naturally, our heart is a compass, whether we realize it or not. But our feelings are a deep intelligence. And I think it's really important to pay attention to our feelings. As we go through life's experiences and our circumstances and relationships, all the circumstances of our life, the careers, we go through all these different feelings. So we learn a heart intelligence. And I think that's a lot of what's happening right now. This enlightenment is coming from a development of heart intelligence. So we naturally learn by overcoming. And the intelligence within feelings, I think of it as we learn to comprehend the light. Because if you think about it, information is carried through water. If we're really feeling strongly, we cry. That's water. Our bodies are mostly water. We feel our feelings and we get information through our feelings, the water and the feelings. Then we comprehend the light within that water, the light of the feelings, the intelligence of the feelings. The light brings us information that helps us to overcome any situation and to discover our true self and our true powers. That's how Earth is our school, because it's an opportunity to experience things on many different levels and then to self-reflect, overcome, and grow. And we learn through this journey of experiences.
It makes me think about this term, and I've used it myself, saying, "Oh, I'm being tested." And I think it's also known as spiritual ropes. Could you describe the principles behind these tests or spiritual ropes and how do they relate to our spiritual growth? What are some of the most common challenges that we experience?
When we have the biggest challenges of our life, it could be our greatest fears are the things that we have been cycling through. Our greatest fears, our deepest concerns, our patterns, and so forth come out. Then we have to address them and overcome them. It's funny because it's not funny. It's funny. It is funny now because it's over. But so one day I was in meditation And I was like, okay, God, I'm a naked soul. This is it. This is what you get. What are you going to do with me? I'm ready. I don't think I said I'm ready to be tested, but basically, I don't know what I said I was ready for. I said, but this is it. This is me. And I surrendered my whole self, my whole soul self. I'm telling you what, I went through a whole year of extreme, I consider this soul testing and a spiritual ropes course, because even though I have a master's degree and I've been up the ladder in terms of education, taught everywhere from elementary school, middle school, high school, and junior college, and corporations and spiritual settings, all of a sudden I found myself basically in a place where I knew nobody and I was homeless. Really funny. And I had an RV that was broken and a car broke down at the same time. So I had a couple of broken down
Oh,
vehicles and
God.
I was homeless. And I had been guided to go there. Like I was following spirit. I was supposed to end up in that circumstance. And the one friend I knew abandoned me. So there's a core issue that I had to deal with in my soul: abandonment. What do you do as a soul when you have nothing and you've been abandoned? You got to go to the deepest recesses of your soul and get that power from the inner core of being and overcome. Being a meditator, I did that and my answer came. And I think I mentioned this one before. The first part of that one was, don't think about yourself, go find someone to serve. I told you that story before, which I did. I found a couple people and I made some new friends, and starting with serving other people. And then I ended up getting those things fixed. Angels came into my life, gave me a place to live, helped me get my things fixed. Miracles happened. Angels showed up. I had abandonment was one, and the other one was arrest. The other one was abduction. I made it through the year. It was definitely soul tests. It was extremely difficult. I cried a lot, and that's part of transmutation. And that's the water that comes through and the miracles that happen. And it's really powerful, I think, crying and just letting your feelings flow, because that's when the energy comes through. It was very difficult and it was very empowering all at the same time. The things that I went through, it didn't last just for a year because there were things I still had to deal with, like court proceedings from the arrest, which can be a whole new story, and I won't go into that. I'm not a criminal, though, by the way. Just to say, I took pictures, and that was my crime. So anyway, the soul test, each person, they know when they're having their own soul test.
Mm.
They know. Each person, we know when we're going through it, and we know where to go for answers and for help. And we know, and we grow out of our small self after that dark night of the soul into our greater self. The shift is happening individually and collectively. And so our smallness is turning into our greatness, and our disempowerment is turning into empowerment. And so we are a bunch of Davies having victory over a bunch of Goliaths. That's happening right now.
Beautifully said. Reminds me, just thinking of what you went through, and obviously I don't know all the details. I'd love to hear that story at the time. But I was just thinking about the symbolism of ropes. They can symbolize unity, the passage of time, connection and unity, strength and resilience, securing and anchoring, climbing and ascending, knots and complexity, tension and stress, the passage of time. And it seems that ropes have held some sort of cultural significance in various societies. In the passage of time, I'm just thinking about how ropes can symbolize all those things that I just mentioned, but also symbolizing the passage of time in their coiling and unraveling. And I wondered, how might the symbolism of ropes be harnessed to better understand and appreciate the cyclical nature of life, relationships, and spirituality?
Interesting question. I'm contemplating that as you've been speaking, because for me, when I mention going through a ropes course, I think what you said about strength and resiliency is what happens after you've gone through those things. But further, to use rope as symbolism, I'm looking more deeply into that because if you see a rope that's bound together in knots, and let's say you have 3 ropes braided together, it makes it that much stronger. What if each one of us were a rope? And the more we gather and intertwine and make the tapestry, the stronger we get. What if we all have this resilience and strength that we built and join together all of our strength and resiliency? That actually sounds like the power to create heaven on earth to me.
Wow, I love that. That's a beautiful note to conclude the podcast today. You mentioned manifestation mastery. Are we doing
Yeah.
that on Thursday?
Yes, yes.
Beautiful. I have a ton of things to talk about in that discussion, but I want to thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a privilege to have you on the podcast and for doing this series. It's just been an incredible journey, and I'm learning so much.
Thank you so much. Your skill, your abilities, your gifts that you share by asking really poignant questions that really inspire me for the right answers or wherever the answers come from. I really appreciate your gifts.
I appreciate you too. And it's great that we can have these spark starters so that it can cause our spirits to flare.
Put. Thank you.
Do you have any passing words at all?
I actually would say, with you, my child, this is to everyone listening, I am well pleased. And I'm just seeing and feeling almost like a proud parent who are seeing all these starseeds, light warriors, paradigm pioneers, all of us who are serving humanity, receiving like accolades from spirit and compliments of really doing such a good job. I just want to say thank you to all the souls that are listening and serving, because I know that we attract resonant souls. And so I just hope that everybody does receive this gift and compliment that feels like it's coming from spirit and take it personally. Thank you and well done. Lots of love.